Well, hello there, and welcome to Wednesday's video about the game design class. I hope you guys are having a good week and are getting a bunch done on your games. So let's start out by scrolling down here to Wednesday and see what's going on. So first of all, of course, I'm making the video right now that you're going to be watching, and that's going to be listed right here in the coming soon area. And in that video, I'm going to talk about this link here, the game booklet. This is a PDF of this file over here, which is an InDesign file, which is a sample game design booklet, or I should say a rule book for games. And of course, the topic of my video today is going to be about creating your rule book. Now, we'll get to that in just a moment, but I'd like to go through the rest of what's happening on the post today. There are some presentations due, and so far I found two of them in the folders for you guys, and there's one that's still going to be coming. So Michael and Blake both did presentations. I've made copies of them and put them in a shareable folder so you guys can check them out. Please take a look at those and then log into the class website here and give them some feedback on the forums. I'm sure they'd love to hear what you think of their presentations. Also, I had some students who asked some questions of me, and I answered them in the forum so everyone could see the answers. And you click on this link, it'll take you over to the forum, and that's where you can see the answers to those questions. There are a series of articles that I put here that I think you might find interesting, so please check those out at your convenience. Here's an article about playing board games online that mentions Tabletop Simulator and gives it really high marks. So, if you're dithering a little bit on whether you should get that software, maybe this will push you towards getting it, because it really is highly reviewed, good software that's very popular, and it'll be an opportunity for you to get better at it, and you could eventually put your games in it, and it'd be a good way to test your games out online with other playtesters. We also have an article here about there's new board game awards in America. Apparently there's a European board game award that's very prestigious, and so now there is one in America that they've just started to sort of compete with the European one. Check that out. Here's an interesting article about board games adapted for the pandemic that we're currently experiencing. We also have a couple more articles here. If you're someone who likes to play games online and would like an opportunity to stream those, there's brand new software that came out called OBS software, which is free, and it's made specifically for streaming. So you can check that out. Maybe that would be of interest to you. Also, an article here of the best games of 2020. Earlier in the semester, I posted an article by the same folks, the best games of 2019, and then this is their current version of that. Okay, so let's go over here and talk about this rule book, this sample rule book. Now, the rule book itself is available as a template on the Game Crafter website. So if you go to the Game Crafter website and you log in and you go to My Games, you can really click on any game. And then up at the top here, you're going to see booklets. And booklets are, of course, rule books. And if you click on Jumbo Booklet, it's going to go ahead and give you a downloadable template here. Now, the one I have primed over here and opened up is InDesign. And what's nice about this is you can go in, you can easily make changes to the text and update everything, drop in pictures. Of course, you have to have the InDesign software and you have to know how to use it in order to do it in InDesign. Now, on the class website, I've put a version of this file as a PDF just as an example for you. But of course, it's much harder to edit a PDF. You can use the pro version of Adobe Acrobat, the icon right down here, to open and edit it, but it's nowhere near as easy as InDesign. So if you do like this file here, this template, and want to get a copy, just come to the Game Crafter site, download this InDesign file. There's also versions for Illustrator, Photoshop, something called Scribus or Scribus, and so on and so forth, right? So that's how you can get the file. Now, like I said, on the class website, I've put a link to a PDF version of this, and I've got like 30 million tabs open here, so I got to try and find the one where it is. Here it is. So it says right here, link to game booklet, and that's the link to the PDF version of this. Okay, So let's go ahead and take a look at what this is. So what this is it's the way that the game crafter recommends you put together a game booklet, which is also a rule book. So I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to show you the template itself, and then I'm going to show you a rule book, a game book that I put together based on this template. So here you can put your title in here and your subtitle, like maybe this is Battle Gore, the world's bloodiest game, is your subtitle, and then a brief description. Now, these are important. These are icons which tell how long the game takes to play, what age group should play it, and how many players are there, right, that you should use to play the game. Um, the 60 minutes is a really good time frame for the game or less. People generally don't want to commit more than that to a board game unless they're very committed to board games, and then they could do multiple hours or multiple days even for D&D type games and things of that nature. Age 12 plus, that's a good standard to put. It just basically means, I think at this age, you're avoiding all kinds of federal regulations about things you have to be careful of for very young children. But at 12 plus, they're kind of tweens or whatever, and you can have pretty much sort of adult type themes as long as there's nothing too R-rated in there in your game and not worry about it. And of course, 2 to 4 players here. Now, these icons, you'll see some little red question marks here. For some reason, GameCrafter uploaded this file, and it doesn't have these actual graphics in it, which is why you get these questions here. Apparently it has this one, but not these two. And these, you can replicate these on your own, or you can just go out on the internet and type free game icons and see what you can find, right? So for example, I'll go ahead and type free game icons here. And here's gameicons.net. And you're going to find really all kinds of free stuff in here you can use, including stuff like this, which will help you communicate to the people who buy your games important information about it. So they have that right on the front of the game book here, but also it would be on the front of your game box. Now, right immediately after that, let me zoom out a little bit here on this. We have the first page, and the first page, let me go ahead and make this a little taller if I can. Okay, that's good. So the very first thing that they have in the template here is the objective, which is, what is the goal of your game, right? And so you spell that out very clearly. Then next, they have the components of your game. And this is, all the cards and the dice and the tokens. There was an earlier version of this template that also had a descriptions area. And when I made my game booklet, I used that descriptions area extensively to describe all the components of my game. Next, setup. So how to set up your game, right? Notice that this booklet is set up in 2 columns, so the text, wraps around, goes from the bottom up to the top. This tells you, is a section about starting the game, how to do turns, how to win and lose, and then additional instructions. Now, of course, all of these areas can get larger or smaller based on the content you put in. You can add additional sections in there if you need to, right? And let's scroll down a little bit. Alternate rules, you may not have gotten to the point where you've actually created those since you're just creating your first board games, but that's a possibility. And then this turns out that it could be a very long section example of play showing what happens in each round, right? Credits is a good thing to do, especially in your case when you have a team, a group that's making this game and you want to give everybody proper credit. The play testers, the artists, the people who wrote the rules, the people that came up with the concepts, right? And then legal, just some information there about copyrights and so on and so forth. And then find out more, and this would be where you would link to your website and give your phone number and address and all that kind of stuff, right? And then there's just a bunch of blank pages here to put additional stuff. Okay, so a relatively straightforward template. Now, all of you guys have written some type of rules, and your rules, range from very specific to very general, and some of them are very precisely written, and some of them could use a little looking at as far as like grammar and the descriptions and things like that. So obviously you didn't come into this class being expert writers or anything like that. But one of the things that would definitely help is to have a structure like this that you can follow. And try and do things like keep your paragraphs short like this so that you can put spaces in between them, so that the page doesn't become overwhelming. If you find yourself having a giant paragraph that takes 2 columns, well, guess what? That's probably too much. You want to make little bite-sized chunks that people can absorb, right? And it's always good to break things up into different sections because it's easier on the eye and people can read a little bit at a time. So what you may consider doing is taking your rules that you have now. If you've got somebody that knows how to do InDesign, download this template from the Game Crafter website and go ahead and port your rules over to this format. It's a really nice format, and it'll help you organize them, make them more efficiently laid out and cleaner and maybe a little easier to understand. Now, as I said, the rules that you guys have created, I'm sure there's a lot of great things in there, and there's probably room for improvement too. If you're very satisfied with what you have right now and you're getting good feedback all across the board, this is not something you need to do. If you think that there's room for improvement, maybe putting it in this format would be helpful to you. Okay, so I'm going to show you one that I made based on this, and it's definitely more advanced than this because it has things like background kind of parchment, and there's graphic design involved, and there's a lot of graphics. And of course, graphics are a big plus when you're doing a game booklet. But I had the luxury of time when creating mine. But I just want to show it to you just to give you an example of what you can do. So here is a booklet that I created in InDesign based on their template for a board game I created called Wild Court. And so we've got this little creature here with his gold in a cave, right? That's the cover. I chose not to put those little icons on the cover. I think I put them on the back just because I like the way this looked without them. And then we go into here, and like I said, the page has a parchment background, which kind of dresses it up a little bit. But here we start off with the objective, right? And we have some little icons in here that kind of spice up the page so it's not just a big chunk of text. I told you that I used very extensively a descriptions area, which is no longer in the template but used to be there, which is going to describe the components of the game. It's almost like a little dictionary or encyclopedia of the game components, right? And then I go in here on the next page to talk about what the actual components, what's actually in the game, right? Here's another graphic, in this case, a close-up of the game board. Then we go down here to the setup, and this is how you set the game up. Here's a couple of the little characters that are in the game. By the way, the reason you see these little boxes is because we're in the design mode right now of InDesign. If I click here and I change it to preview, it's going to show you, what the pages actually look like when they're printed, right? So there's our setup, right? Here's starting the game, and you can see, I tend to be kind of wordy here in my descriptions because there's a lot of information to pass on. There's a picture of the game board right there. So that's all starting the game. Here we go into player turns. There's an example of a card in the game. And then these are areas that I added myself, that additional information that needed to be in there about the game. So battling against opposing armies, battling this thing called the Singing Stone. Here's some more examples of cards. And then we get into a section which I said earlier could be very long, and it turned out to be kind of robust in mind, the example of gameplay. So, we start out here on this page, and we go all the way through this. Notice how I'm using graphics to break things up, because otherwise this would be just a big page of text. And then we continue all the way down to here in the examples, right? So now we're at the end of the template. We've got some additional information I had to throw in there that didn't really fit anywhere else in the game booklet. It comes all the way down through here. And then finally we get to the credits. I worked on this game, and my friend Riri in Japan did some of the graphics like these right here. And then there's my legal and contact information. I also decided to take the final inside page and create kind of a backstory for the game just to give it some context. And then this is just me advertising a bunch of other projects I've worked on. And then finally, the back page, a logo for the game. And then these are the three icons we talked about earlier. You can see how mine look different than the ones in the template, because I did go out to one of those free game icon sites or a free vector site like vecteezy.com and got some graphics and made these myself because I thought they looked a little better than the ones that were being offered. So here's one of the main characters to the game, and here's a little summary of kind of the initial incident of the game, or what the goal is, just for people to read on the back of the game booklet. And that's pretty much it. And like I said, I don't have expectations that you guys would be creating stuff this complex. You don't have the time, you're still figuring things out. But it just goes to show you, what you can create and what can be created even from something as simple as this, this template here. And it actually was. I actually took this template and turned it into this over, spending a bunch of time on it. Okay, so you guys know that the deadline I'm shooting for is April 8th for us to have all our game components done and uploaded. And of course, your rules are part of that. You could choose to print out a booklet at GameCrafter that has your rules on it, or it's cheaper to just print it out yourself, and staple it together. You can do that. But you do need to have those rules done so that by the time the games come in, we can print those up and put them with the games. Okay, so that's pretty much it from me today. I do want to make sure you guys are working together as a team to continue to develop your game, to get all the graphics ready and uploaded to the GameCrafter, to finish the rules, and of course to play test the game in whatever fashion you can, whether it's with Tabletop Simulator, which is what I've been writing you about for the last week and what the video on Monday was about, or even, as I said in the forum post in answer to some students' questions, the workshop in Steam is another option for those of you that want to use it. Okay, so that's it. Please keep in mind that you're welcome to write and ask me questions, and I'll try to answer them in the forum so that everybody can see the answers. Please do continue to work on your game. The 8th is a week from today, and I'm hoping we can get everything done by then. And I'll check in with you guys then, and we'll see where we are. Okay, thanks a lot, and have a great weekend.